This episode of Tekzilla is sponsored by Domain.com. We got an email from Johnny K who writes, "Hi Tekzilla, TrueCrypt is no longer safe. I use Mac OS X. What encryption tool should I use to replace TrueCrypt? I only use TrueCrypt to encrypt folders and I do not need full disk encryption. I am not keen about Apple's built-in file vault encryption." Remember, you are not really paranoid if they really are after you. Regards, Johnny K from Denmark. Thank you.
So we're big fans of Paranoia and TrueCrypt. We demoed using TrueCrypt on Tekzilla several times. Shannon, in her ulterior named hack as Snubs, is pretty hardcore about security encryption.
Yes.
And one of the things that made TrueCrypt really cool is you could create a whole bunch of sort of fake locked sort of TrueCrypt vaults with the idea that, you know, if someone was holding a gun to your head and saying, "Give us the password," you could give them to the password.
You could throw them off.
Yeah. You know, you give them a collection of wedding receipts that you encrypted because, you know, you didn't want somebody to know how much you paid for your wedding, and then the actual state secrets to save all the lives would be somewhere else in your hard drive, right? There's debate as to whether TrueCrypt is actually compromised. Maybe their source forward page got majorly hacked. Maybe the anonymous collection of developers that have been working on TrueCrypt for so many years were just done and wanted to walk away from the project and light it on fire, which is kind of in their spirit from what I've been told by people who know better than I do. But assuming they're done and the code really is FUBAR, yep, you got to find a new crypto tool. There are definitely some alternatives we can point to, but most that include Windows and Mac are proprietary and cost a bit of money. It's a funny thing about encryption, and the funny thing about things like TrueCrypt. Open, free encryption is not that common. Wikipedia has a nice comparison chart of different encryption projects, whether they are maintained, that's a big deal, and what platforms they are available on. Look at that list, boys and girls. It goes on and on and on. And it also, more importantly, it also gives you the operating systems that they're available on.
Now, I got a few alternatives.
You're moving on.
As far as free goes, first off, we got on Windows, there's BitLocker, but that one's only available for Enterprise or Pro versions of Windows 8 and 7.
Which is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. Another option for Windows is Xcrypt, which is open source, but it only encrypts folders, not entire drives. And then this one, I'm actually a big fan of this one. It's called EncFS, Encryption FS for Linux, which is open source, and it is a little bit tough to get used to if you are new to Linux, but trust me, it's not too hard. Follow my tutorial on Hack5. Another option would be security expert Bruce Schneier's go-to choice. This one is called PGP Disk. So this one's originally released way back in 1998, but guess what? It still works. There's a reason why it is still around.
It's not dead yet. To be honest, though, nothing has really been tested as extensively at TrueCrypt.
That's true.
Or as it has been tested on this point. Because a lot of people just hammered on TrueCrypt just to see what they could do. There are reports that, you know, there's just a lot of anecdotal and actual testing evidence that suggests TrueCrypt is really solid. There's an independent security analysis of TrueCrypt's code that's still underway. I think $30,000 or $70,000 was raised for that. And in the process of auditing TrueCrypt's code, going through it line by line, the person who put together the audit, who was not a big TrueCrypt fan because he didn't trust anonymous people writing security tools, has actually, he'd become sort of a fan of the project and how cool it was, and is kind of upset because the license for TrueCrypt doesn't really make it easy for another group to take the TrueCrypt code and move forward. Look, if you already have a TrueCrypt volume and you don't really want to go with File Vault, it might be best to stick with TrueCrypt until we get confirmation that the code is compromised. If you're guarding state secrets, you know, you shouldn't be trusting us for your advice on this. The existing 7.1a code has been in use for 2 years. It hasn't really changed since this announcement went up, unless, of course, you know, the truecrypt.sourceforge.net page has been compromised, and, you know, oh my goodness, you know, check the hash, you know, check the hash some. Yeah, well, it's, you know, wait a minute, what's going on here?
But also, because development has stopped, it is possible that a bug or a security flaw might appear in future in the software. So the TrueCrypt team are warning current users that TrueCrypt may contain any kind of issues, like those kind of flaws. So they do suggest migrating to another encryption vault because they will not be fixing anything with patches in the future. Also, I should mention Steve Gibson has a whole page dedicated to TrueCrypt on his site. He seems to think that TrueCrypt is still safe to use, and he does have a mirror backup of 7.1a code on his site available down at the bottom.
Caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, or let the encryptor beware. But you know what, we've given you the information. You're adults, you can make a decision. If you're children, you can make a decision for your adults who understand how that works. More Tekzilla coming right up, but before we do that, let's take a moment to thank one of our sponsors.
If you haven't yet, you should really try out domain.com. It's one-stop shopping for all of your domain name and web hosting needs. These guys are awesome. Domain.com's simple search quickly shows you available domain names and web hosting options, making it super easy to select the domain extension and hosting plan that's right for you. An easy checkout smooths the process, erases the hassle, and it keeps you from saying, huh? How does this thing work? The folks at domain.com are hooking you up. At checkout, use the coupon code Tekzilla for 20% off your purchase. That's an amazing offer.